Air. What's so important in it? Why does our lives depend on it? What can be the cause or who can be the cause of its destruction? These are some of the questions that we are going to tackle in this video. Today, we're going to talk about the negative anthropogenic effects in air towards the environment.
Hello everyone. To start this video, I'm Joffrey Mapúa, and I'm about to tell you what biogeochemical cycles are. So, biogeochemical cycles can be classified as gaseous, in which the source of the nutrient or the reservoir is the air or oceans, which can be possible through evaporation and in sedimentary, to which the reservoir is the Earth's crust. So, before that, let us focus about the gaseous cycles. The gaseous cycles includes those of nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, and water cycles. Since we all know that gases have more freedom to move rapidly than the solids, gaseous cycles tend to move more rapidly than those of sedimentary ones, so they will be able to adjust more readily to changes in the biosphere because of the large atmospheric reservoir. And knowing that, biogeochemical cycles are the cycles which are very important to living organisms, which because it includes water, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur cycles. It is also the way in which an element or compound move itself from one location to another in the so-called biosphere. A little additional information is that plants and some animals have source of their nutrient needs, which came obviously from the solutions in the environment, while other animals obtain their needs from plants and mainly from the animals they consume or devour. So, following the equilibrium or the cycle, after the death of an organism, they start to decompose, or their bodies slowly return to the environment through the action of decomposers, which will later on become available to other living organisms once again, which will repeat the cycle over and over again. So that's why it was called equilibrium, because no matter what you do, it will just repeat and repeat and repeat in an equal way.
I'll be discussing about anthropogenic effects or human-made activities. Anthropogenic impacts incorporate contamination, environmental change, living space modification, and intrusive species. It is first perceived by Suez in 1954, who noticed a 2% decrease in environmental radiocarbon. Cause of air pollution. Air contamination is brought about by strong and fluid particles and certain gases that are suspended noticeable all around. These particles and gases can emerge out of vehicle and truck fumes, plants, dust, form spores, volcanoes, and fierce blazes. Air pollution. Air pollution is caused by solid and liquid particles and certain gases that are suspended in the air. These particles and gases can come from car and truck exhaust, factories, dust, pollen, mold spores, volcanoes, and wildfires. Effects of air pollution. People experience a wide range of health effects from being exposed to air pollution. Effects can be broken down into short-term effects and long-term effects. Short-term effects, which are temporary, includes illnesses such as pneumonia or bronchitis. Long-term effects of air pollution can last for years or for an entire lifetime. They can even lead to a person's death. Long-term health effects from air pollution includes heart disease, lung cancer, and respiratory diseases such as emphysema.
What are invasive species? Invasive species, put into context, are any kind of living organism that is not native to environment and causes harm, be it an environmental or economic way. invasive species can harm both the natural resources in an ecosystem as well as threaten the human use of these resources. Invasive species are capable of causing extinctions of native plants and animals, reducing biodiversity, competing with native organisms for limited resources, and altering habitats. Invasive species can contribute to the huge economic impacts as well as the fundamental disruptions in the ecosystem. The question lies, how do invasive species invade in air? As we all know, air creatures are those who have wings to soar and fly in air. Basically, birds. Just like how there are invasive species in land and water, invasive species in air relatively travel from one place to another, being native to land and not in destroying most of resources. While normal creatures have the purpose of surviving or just to initially survive from the threats of invasive species. Since invasive species, just like conquerors of land from ancient time, are invaders that spread towards new environments, spreading its population and harming the ecosystem. The effects of invasive species put a toll on the living and competition of native species, habitat, and food. Specifically, it can change the food web in the ecosystem by destroying or disrupting native food sources. Air invaders in particular nest in the environment, searching and competing for natural resources to survive. The barred owl is an example of an air invasive species, which steadily increases in numbers as it preys on the weak for territories and nesting spots and hunting areas.
Your genes play an important role in your health, but so do your behaviors and environment, such as what you eat and how physically active you are. Epigenetics is a study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Epigenetics will explain that DNA methylations, demethylations, histone modification, coding RNA affects our genes in environmental changes, which as epigenetic mechanisms may also provide a molecular changes of environmental experiences. Epigenetics controls genes. It is how you grow, determines your cells' specializations. Epigenetics is everywhere. What you eat, where you live, who you interact with, when you sleep, and how you exercise. Epigenetics makes us unique. It explains us the characteristics, traits, appearance of ourselves, etc. Epigenetics is irreversible, which examples that genes could also help you to kill cancer, or cancer could kill you as well. It is not just epigenetic mechanisms explain that control of gene expressions and programs during development, but also it tells that over the years, the definition of epigenetic are continuously to change our development because it is applicable for us to create new property. Especially, epigenetic is not actually what it means to be in genes, but it has also modifications to cure abnormalities and even the changes in our environment.